So, I just finished watching this 2 hour DHH monologue, and it was absolutely magnificent. I highly recommend you to watch the entire thing. Now, on this video, I'm going to react to three specific sections of this podcast, and at the end, I am actually going to disagree with DHH on one topic. So, let's do it. The first section is what I like to call Stop Celebrating Incompetence.
Again, I don't think that reality is actually something to celebrate. And it's a little bit like that fucking dog, that meme with the dog. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, that I just absolutely hate and loathe, even this idea that knowing things, getting better at things, being competent is somehow that doesn't exist, right? And where I remember that discourse was a lot about programmers who I knew things, feigning that they didn't. And that was the kind of bullshit that I just went like, oh, calm the fuck on. I don't know everything. I'm totally happy to admit ignorance on a wide variety of topics. But also, I do know some things about some of the things that I do. That's why I do them. That's why I get paid to do them. That's why there's impact from it and so forth. So let's not fall into this trap that no one fucking knows anything, that competence doesn't exist, and actually the highest calling is just to have a fucking 9 to 5 that you don't really like because reasons.
Yeah, I think
All right, so if you don't know what DHH is talking about, it's that annoying meme of a dog. I don't know what I'm doing meme. All right, it's this one. I have no idea what I'm doing. This meme, I mean, people no longer share it all over the place, but maybe a couple of months ago or years ago, like many experts on Twitter would share this meme sort of to encourage newcomers to programming. And I think it started with good intentions, with the intention of saying to newcomers that, you know what, you think that I know everything, but actually I don't. Just like you, there are many topics that I don't deeply understand and I need to research. But I think it started with good intentions and then it went to the complete extreme of saying stuff like, oh, I don't know anything about programming. I actually am just a noob that constantly Googles all day, every day, and I am a paid Googler. And I've seen so many people on Twitter, like senior developers, tweeting stuff like this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, I just use Google all day. Let's be honest. Look, since I started working professionally as a developer, to be 100% honest here, I think only on the first 2 or 3 months of my professional career, I used to Google all day to get help on JavaScript and React. Now I barely use Google at all. I think I Google stuff like once a week, maybe twice a week, and it's to Google super specific things. Like the basics of JavaScript and React are memorized on my brain. I have zero need to go Google stuff, right? I just Google stuff if I'm doing something specific on the backend. Maybe I'm using Rails and I need help. Okay. But for my daily activities as a front end developer, I don't use Google at all. Okay. Stop pretending that you don't know anything just to be more welcoming. This is not true. Like, I know you don't Google all day. I know you're a senior developer and you know a bunch of complex topics. So stop saying that you have no idea what you're doing because it's not true.
think one of the for me it's not only a bad meme because it sort of throws away like all the things that you've learned and like clearly like if you were going to make a website in Ruby on Rails and I was going to write one in like C, like I think you would be done first and there's something like important about that trade-off. But I also think it really like misleads juniors and people entering the industry because their end goal now is like, oh, my end goal is I don't have to know anything, never have to struggle to learn anything, never have to overcome and accomplish anything to get to mastery. look at all these people I respect who have shipped valid things, who have done awesome stuff, and they're just saying, well, I don't know anything. You're like, no, you do. You're lying to them. You're tricking them. You're putting them on the wrong path.
That's 100% it. And to me, it's almost like a kind of luxury belief. By the time
Yes.
you've reached some competence that is marketable and you can actually use it to get a job and so on, you feigning that like it doesn't really matter, everyone looks everything up on the internet, whatever, just pushing it so far out that you're demeaning competence as a valuable virtue to pursue. It's a luxury good. Like you're not paying the penalty for that. The
Right.
people who embrace it and think that they can just ask AI for everything or they can just look everything up, but they don't have to understand the copy pasta that they slam into their project, they're the ones who are going to suffer because they're the ones who are going to have their career prospects curbed, right? And that's no. And that's what gets me is at the beginning of that whole trajectory of that narrative, I was actually on board. I was on board in as far as to say, do you know what? We should make it a lot easier for people to get started. There's
Okay, so yeah, the TLDR is stop lying to juniors, okay? Because you're selling them a lie. You're selling them the idea that, well, if I want to get a high salary and work for top startups and get paid big bucks, all I need to do is learn how to use Google. And then I'm gonna work for big tech and I'm gonna be rich. No, 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 no. This is not true. Stop lying to juniors. You know this is not true, okay? You're misleading them. You're telling them that it's okay to not know anything, to Google all day, to ChatGPT all day, because all these seniors on Twitter say they have no idea what they're doing, okay? If you're a junior and watching this video, this is not true. I rarely use Google. I only use ChatGPT and Google for stuff that I don't know, like backend, Rails, a little bit of Elixir maybe, but like I'm a front-end developer. For front-end topics, I don't use Google at all. Barely once per week, okay? So stop selling this lie. Junior, if you're watching this, don't believe this crazy idea. Now, the second section that I wanted to react, I'm gonna call it having opposing ideas is good. And it's on 39. Where's the minute? 39. Whoop. 39:45.
Bidden in their TOS, and then they got evicted and had to write their own.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And how wonderful is that? Imagine if they had somehow worked it out with BitKeeper. We would have been without Git. We'd still been fucking subversion everything. No, thank you. So some of this conflict and tension should not be seen as like a necessary or an evil. It's actually beneficial. It is in that grind, it is in that robbing. We realize we're not all the same. We don't want the same things. There shouldn't just be one project. There shouldn't just be one framework. There shouldn't just be one programming language. There should be a multitude of them. And you should gravitate towards the one that most closely resemble what you would like to see and what you would like to have. And this is why we need a bunch of choices. This is why we should not sort of just converge on 5 things, which I know the internet loves a horse race, right? Like there's always like, oh, is this framework more popular than that framework? Like they constantly want to converge. No. Don't converge. Have enough choices, have enough options to realize programmers are weird and wonderful in very idiosyncratic ways that are incompatible. You can't
Now, this is so true. As a front-end developer and JavaScript developer, I see this tendency of trying to converge everything to JavaScript, converge everything to one framework, one language. And on one side, I think this is good because you are reducing the overhead that I need to learn in order to become a programmer. So now instead of learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Ruby, Rails, I don't need any of those last pieces. I can only understand JavaScript and then be able to build web apps, mobile apps, even hardware you can code in JavaScript. So on that side, I think it's good, but it's also good that we have opposing ideas. It's good that we have Rails that is almost 100% contrary to JavaScript and TypeScript and more modern front-end development, this is good because that's the beauty of the web. It's not mandatory for you to use one language like mobile. If you want to build a mobile app, it's mandatory to use Swift for Apple and then Kotlin or Java for Android. And on the web, you can use whatever you want. Whatever piece of software that responds to an HTTP request can be used to serve your website. And this is beautiful. The more diverse ideas we have, the healthier of an ecosystem that we're going to develop. And if we're constantly battling against each other because, oh, Rails is trash, Elixir is trash, PHP is horrible, we just want JavaScript, this is not good. Stop trying to converge. Like, you can try to build cool technologies using JavaScript, but please stop trying to force everyone to use JavaScript. Having opposing ideas and new ideas that are completely contrary to JavaScript is a good thing, because that means we have more diversity of ideas.
Take all the people who write the fucking Go code and shove them into a Ruby project, and then like they're going to be happy. That's not just no. Like, we want different things. Actually, I mean, maybe Go is the wrong example. We have some folks on the team who do write Go, and I think they sort of like it okay too. So anyway, just this idea that there are different universes that have non-overlapping, conflicting visions of what they want. And clarifying those boundaries is helpful to get people to realize what they want. Now, the first thing, of course, is most people don't know what they want. They show up and they're like, what should I use? I don't know, fucking start anywhere. It doesn't even really matter, because you start with something and you realize, is this the thing that tickles my noodle? And if it doesn't, then you move on to something else. You can try like 5 things, especially early on in your career. I would not at all be in a rush to commit. Like, you just start programming, oh, that's great. You should try 5 things. Once you've tried the 5 things, as we talked about in the beginning, the world isn't that large. You will realize that you've had some cursory understanding and that some things speak more to you than other things. Wonderful. Then double down, then get good, then achieve mastery, then do all the things. But don't try to get it all together. We don't want one language. We don't want one. And that's why the
Okay, so I completely agree with this statement, and this is one of the regrets that I have. I think now, for example, most of the choices that I make nowadays are focused on my career, and I already spent way too much time on the front end. If I could go back in time, maybe I would have used a different language, like Ruby on Rails, you know? There are many things that I dislike about JavaScript. Many things. And the regret that I have is that I never gave myself the chance of trying other stuff. I looked up online. Everyone was saying, learn JavaScript, learn JavaScript, learn JavaScript. And I was like, okay, this is the only choice that I have. I never tried Ruby. Like back then, I never tried Elixir, never tried PHP. I never gave those other languages a chance. I just assumed that all of them were trash, and the only option available was JavaScript. And this is, I have some regrets regarding this. So if you are a junior or learning to code, try many languages, okay? Don't stick to JavaScript because everyone is saying so. Try JavaScript, try Java, try Golang, try PHP, Ruby, Elixir. And then after trying, like, I don't know, test each language for a day or two. After you give them a chance, then commit to one language. And I never did this. I never allowed myself to experiment with other languages. I just added to my head that the information that, oh, the only language available is JavaScript. I have no choice. This is it. Everything else is trash. So I never tried anything. And now I have way too much time invested in JavaScript to give up and move on to another ecosystem.
internet is so amazing. This is why I'm like, it's weird, but it feels like the internet needs articulation of its defense, because we've taken the internet for granted for a long time, and then suddenly these other programming languages, or platforms I should say, showed up, like mobile, native. Good luck if you don't want to write Swift or Objective-C and you want to make apps for iOS. Now, it's possible. There's React Native. There's a bunch of other things you can sort of kind of do it, but you'll do it as a second tier or third tier citizen. If you want to be a first tier citizen, all paid up, get access to the latest, you damn well better use whatever Apple tells you to use. And it's the same thing in the Android camp. It's not the same thing on the internet. You can literally use whatever the fuck you want on the internet. I can get that Commodore 64 with 1 megahertz to reply to an HTTP response. Now, I don't know if I want to implement HTTP 2, but HTTP 1.1, yep, could do it on a Commodore 64. That's fucking amazing. And that's why I can still use Ruby and feel like I'm a first tier citizen on the internet. Wonderful.
Folks, the web should be celebrated. Like one of the first videos that I ever recorded on my YouTube channel, now it's in Brazilian Portuguese, so if you're an English speaker, you're not going to be able to watch that. But I mentioned on that video that my first professional experience was actually on mobile. I was using React Native and Firebase on the backend, and I really enjoyed coding mobile apps. But the main reason why I decided to migrate from mobile to web was that lack of choice. And then on my first job, the Apple app was actually rejected. We deployed it to the Android store, to Apple store, and then 1 week after we delivered the app, Apple rejected it and said that we weren't following specific guidelines. And I got so angry because I hate to ask for permission. Like, this is my app. Why do you have anything to say about my app? It's my app. I can do whatever the hell I want. Stop telling me how to code things. This is outrageous. It made me extremely angry. And then I migrated to the web, because on the web I can do whatever the hell I want. I don't need to ask for permission. Nobody has control over my code. It's my code and that's it. So the web should be celebrated because the mobile world is tough. All right, now the third and last section is what I like to call the JavaScript mafia strikes again. It's on minute 48:20. Where is that? Okay.
You got to help me reconcile then. I would think you would then praise TypeScript. Hold me out. I know we're going a little crazy here because it actually allows JavaScript to have a duality in nature. Those that love the, say, typing masturbation, as I like to refer to it as, they can do it all day long. And then those who just want to remain in the dynamic world can just be JavaScript. Wouldn't that be a benefit of an ecosystem that can actually large tent everybody in?
Yes, if that was the happy kumbaya atmosphere of the debate within the JavaScript community, I think that would be wonderful. That's not what I've been seeing. I've been seeing, especially on the TypeScript side, I mean, not just seeing, experiencing the kind of crusades that are launched from the TypeScript high tower, right? Like literally we went through with Turbo, people opening like bullshit PRs to remove things because what savages are we? What unbelievers are we if we don't accept the true TypeScript into our hearts? And that's the problem I have. I don't fucking care. If you want to write TypeScript, great. Again, goes back to our discussion. If that's the thing that floats your boat, wonderful. Don't fucking ram it down my throat. Like, I'm not going to run TypeScript in my projects, and I'm going to work towards a TypeScript-free future as an alternative, as one path. You can choose the fork here, right? Like, I'm big on no build, and TypeScript doesn't fit within no build because it's got to be built. Like maybe, I mean, I hope not, sort of, kind of, maybe I fucking hope, I don't know. That, like, I was going to say, I hope that browsers don't adopt it. I'm actually fine.
All right. So I think if you haven't been following DHH for a while, maybe you don't know about this, but there was a moment where DHH, who is one of the main contributors and the creator of a library for Rails called Turbo, he decided to remove TypeScript from Turbo internally. So the maintainers of Turbo, they collectively agreed that they didn't enjoy writing TypeScript code, so they removed it from the library, right? So this decision mostly impacted the maintainers of the Turbo library. That doesn't impact at all the end user of Turbo, which is you, the developer. As far as I know, that doesn't impact you at all. And then we got a bunch of JavaScript influencers that got extremely angry, went on Twitter and started aggressively talking about DHH and saying some really bad and horrible stuff about him. And they even created a bunch of, let's call it bullshit PRs, reverting the change to remove TypeScript. So they re-added TypeScript to Turbo and they opened a PR on Turbo. And this is what I consider like the mafia of JavaScript. Because you think they are a bunch of nice guys that talk to you in a nice way, when in reality they're not. Every time I post something negative about JavaScript, my comment section is filled with haters and people calling me names. It's horrible. And that happened, it happens quite frequently with DHH because he is very public about his hate for modern front-end development. And because he's using no build on most of the new Rails stuff, he cannot use TypeScript, but as he just mentioned, he doesn't like TypeScript. So he made this decision of removing TypeScript from one library because the maintainers didn't like it, and then everybody started attacking him. And I think this is very unfair, this is immature, this is very childish. I cannot believe that the folks that use the same language as me decided to attack a fellow creator and amazing person like DHH in the way that they did. It's horrible, it's deplorable, it's childish, and I am very sad that this happened to DHH. Okay, now, as I mentioned on the beginning of this video, I wanted to talk about something that I actually disagree from DHH, and that is, I think that, this is true. DHH is very public about his disagreements with TypeScript, React, Next.js, Vercel. And I think this is fine, but I just think that he should be more careful with his words. Because by being a very strong contrarian to those ideas, people start associating Rails with something that is against modern front-end development. And this is not true. You can use Ruby on Rails in conjunction with Next.js, Remix, or whatever React framework, meta framework. And these two, they work fine, all right? And if you know nothing about Rails, and then you start researching about DHH, you're gonna find lots and lots of videos about him hating pretty much React and TypeScript. And then you might get the feeling that, well, I am not welcome on this community. This community is a bunch of haters of JavaScript. And this is not true. I know many Rails developers that are actually a big fan of Next.js, Remix, and the latest innovations in React. And they don't feel represented by DHH. Like, of course, they love the work from DHH. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be able to use Rails, but they do not agree with his stance against JavaScript. And by being the public face of Rails, you give this vibe that like an entire community of programmers hates JavaScript, hates frontend. And this is not true, okay? Some Rails developers agree with him, but lots of other Rails developers don't agree with DHH, and they actually enjoy the new front-end development. So don't watch DHH and assume that every Rails developer is a hater, every Ruby developer just likes Ruby and thinks that Ruby is superior and JavaScript is trash. This is not true, okay? DHH is the public face of Rails, but only a percentage of Rails developers agrees with this strong stance against JavaScript, okay? So don't think that Rails is against JavaScript, okay? DHH is, but the Rails community, no, okay? So that's the only critique that I have of DHH. I think he would be actually fine if he was super strongly against TypeScript and React, but if Rails provided like some official package for inertia, then, for example, DHH would be able to go on a podcast and say, hey, I hate React, I hate TypeScript, but if you like them, we actually have a very nice packaged, nice package called inertia that you can use to beautifully integrate with React and TypeScript. But they decided to embrace no build, hotwire, which make things on the front end a little harder. So yeah, that's what I don't like a lot about DHH, but everything else, 99% of what he says about front end and modern development, I actually agree. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.